Now, with the early pioneers, what they would have done was, first of all, made syrup in only one kettle. So ignore the other one over here. If I was going to make syrup in this kettle, I would fill it right to the very top, and then I would light a huge fire going around it. Underneath the kettle, you can see from the rounded shape of it, when you light a fire underneath this, the only part that is actually being heated, unless you have a huge fire going right up around the sides of it, is the very bottom of the kettle. Right? It would take them 36 hours to end up making syrup. But the problem is, the fires got so large that the slightest little bit of wind that would come through would take a spark, and you can see all the leaves and the dried stuff and that on the ground here. A lot of the early pioneers burned down their sugar bushes because these fires had to be so large. Right? Now, when you end up making one batch of syrup at a time and only using one kettle, these kettles are made out of cast iron. If you let them boil dry, they will crack and break. So, when they made their first batch of syrup, they had to leave a little bit of the maple syrup in the bottom of the kettle. That is going to burn before they can actually get raw fat back into it from the tree. So, your first batch tasted fine, but every batch after that is going to taste burnt. That's why they came up with a 3-kettle system. We don't have the 3rd kettle here. It's in the candy house behind us, and this is what is small enough. We actually make the maple candy with it on the weekend. But what you're going to do with the first kettle, fill that up with raw sap, boil that part way down, and ladle it into the second kettle, and then refill this guy again. Right? This one's going to boil down part way. You can ladle it out into the 3rd kettle, which is the smallest of all of them. And when it becomes maple syrup in that kettle, we can now take it away from the fire. It's not going to burn. We can clean out the kettle totally, and you make a good batch of maple syrup every single time. And you've always got sap in a certain point in that getting towards maple syrup. Okay? But still problems with the 3 kettles. You're wide open to the elements. So rain and that can get into it now. Snow at the beginning of the season. You may often in that end up with some of the animals and so on possibly into there. So with it being wide open like this, and that it did take the 36 hours, and somebody had to stand out here for the 36 hours as well. Okay? The other thing is if you cracked and broke one of these kettles, and that you were actually boiling this out in your sugar bush, which is normally 2 weeks away from the nearest town. So if you needed a new one, you've got 2 weeks to get to the nearest town, 2 weeks for a blacksmith to make you a new kettle, and then 2 weeks to get back again. That's 6 weeks. There's your sugar season gone. So that's why they never ever wanted to boil these things dry. Okay? These are extremely heavy. It does take in that 6 of us to get these 2 kettles and that onto the chain and so on up here. They are very, very heavy in that when you actually get the sap and that into them. So when the people are actually doing this, you're not going to do it one family at a time. It would almost be a whole community coming together and actually making syrup all together. Okay? Now, from 36 hours, because of the rounded bottom and that onto it, they thought they could do it even faster if we make the bottom of the pan flat, so we get more sap closer to the fire. So from the early pioneers and that, we move over to the flat pan, and that which the latter pioneers developed. So moving over to this guy.